Best maize or corn farming practice number 6 is optimizing harvest timing and post-harvest handling. That is preventing the hidden losses that destroy profits. Post-harvest losses: grain lost to improper harvest timing, inadequate drying, poor storage, pest damage, or molds represent devastating economic waste, affecting most corn farmers, yet often going unrecognized because the losses are gradual rather than sudden. Research across smallholders or smallholder farming systems document typical post-harvest losses of 15 to 30%, meaning that for every 100 bags you produce, 15 to 30 bags are lost, often after harvest before reaching market or consumption. Losses occurring after you have invested all your time, money, and effort producing that corn. Therefore, implementing proper harvest and post-harvest management, preventing just half of these losses, that is capturing an additional 7 to 15% of your production, provides economic benefits equivalent to increasing yields 7 to 15% with zero additional production costs, making post-harvest management one of the highest return investments farmers can make. The fact that post-harvest improvements typically require minimal capital investments compared to production improvements, yet provide comparable of all better returns, makes them the obvious first priority for profit conscious farmers. The primary sources of post-harvest losses include field losses from delayed harvests, allowing birds to damage your crops, insects to feed on them, airdrop, and stock lodging, typically 3 to 7% losses. Handling losses from shelling, cleaning, and transporting grains, 2 to 5% losses. Drying losses from improper moisture management, 1 to 3% losses. And storage losses from insects, rodents, and molds, 5 to 15% losses. And quality that is losses and quality degradation. Each of these loss points is addressable through proper techniques requiring knowledge and management rather than expensive inputs. Implementing optimal harvest timing and field management. Timing harvest optimally balances minimizing field losses against drying requirements and weather risk. Physiological maturity, the point when kernels reach maximum dry weight and stop accumulating biomass, occurs when kernels develop a distinct black layers at the base where they attach to the comb, typically 55 to 65 days after pollination, depending on variety and conditions. At physiological maturity, grain mature content typically ranges from 25 to 35% depending on weather. Too wet for safe storage, but often for harvest maximizing field losses. Therefore, monitor fields as maturity approaches by examining kernels from multiple years, checking for black layer formation. Once 80 to 90% of years show black layer, harvest within 1 to 2 weeks to minimize field losses while avoiding excessive drying requirements. Each week of delay beyond optimal timing increases field losses 1 to 3% from birds, rodents, insects, weather damage, lodging, and airdrop. These losses accumulate rapidly, making timing harvests critical. Harvests efficiently minimizes grain losses. For hand harvest, snap ears cleanly from stalk, avoiding shattering kernels. Collect all dropped ears, that is working fields after initial harvest, often recovers 2 to 5% additional ears. And handle ears gently, preventing damage. For mechanical harvest, adjust combines properly to minimize grain damage and losses through proper cylinder speed, concave settings, and cleaning shoe adjustments. Improperly adjusted combines can cause 5 to 10% or more field losses than you never see. That you never see because grain is scattered behind the machine. Operate equipment at appropriate speed, allowing machinery to process corn without overloading, typically 2 to 4 mph for most conditions. Collect and shell ears promptly after harvest rather than leaving in piles where rodents and birds cause substantial losses. Implementing proper drying and storage protecting your investment. Moisture management is the single most critical factor determining storage success. Maize or corn stored above 13 to 14% moisture develop mold growth, mycotoxin contamination, insect infestation, and heating that rapidly degrades quality and quantity. Dry harvested corn to 12 to 13 moisture percent moisture before storage through traditional sun drying or improved methods. Sun drying works reliably in regions with adequate sunshine. Spread ears or shelled grains in thin layers 2 to 4 inches on clean surfaces like taps, concrete, raised platform, turning regularly to ensure uniform drying, protecting from rain and overnight dew, and verifying dryness before storage. Sun drying from 20% to 13% moisture typically requires 5 to 10 days depending on weather. Test dryness using moisture meters, ideal if available, or traditional methods. Kernels should be hard, breaking cleanly when beaten without flexibility. Shelled grain should not clump when squeezed together, instead separating freely. Never store inadequately dried corn. Moisture above 14% virtually guarantees severe storage losses. Therefore, store properly dried grain in pest-proof moisture or moisture-proof facilities, protecting your investment. Improved crypts with tight construction, preventing rodent entry. Metal or plastic silos. Hermetic bags or containers preventing insect respiration or traditional granaries properly constructed and maintained. Key principles: elevate storage off ground, that is preventing moisture wicking and facilitating air circulation. And ensure weatherproof roof, this is preventing rain entry. Seal all openings, preventing pest entry. Provide adequate ventilation in non-hermetic storage, preventing moisture accumulation. And inspect stored grain monthly, checking for moisture changes, heating that is indicating insect activity or molds, or pest presence, addressing problems immediately through redrying, fumigation, or other corrective actions. Farmers implementing proper drying and storage report reducing post-harvest losses from 20 to 30%, typical of poor practices, to under 5%, transforming 20 to 25% of their production from waste into marketable grain that generates income. This is equivalent to increasing effectively yields 20 to 30% without an additional field input. Here is the summary of your blueprint for corn farming or maize farming prosperity.